Oh, no. Okay, I read that wrong.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is August 7th, 2020. This is episode 229. And today, Blackout before Breakout. I'm not your echo chamber, but I am your best buddy Basil, and we are back in action, Gonz.
And this is Gonz, and we definitely had a blackout before we can break out and try this again. So, title makes sense.
Blackouts all over the place.
Yeah, it's I don't know what's happening to the computer. Maybe it's getting too old. It is almost 10 years old.
It is an old computer.
Yeah, it's about 8 years old.
Might be time
so,
for an upgrade. Yeah. Well, luckily we've got some great producers that might pitch in and help pay for such an upgrade that will avoid these catastrophes in the future. It's been a tough week. Pretty much every episode this week has had some sort of interruption. And today is no exception, but we canceled the first stream and now we're back, and we'll just keep praying that we hang in there. We're just gonna keep pushing forward. Any updates besides the obvious Gonz since last episode?
Yeah, I got one, although I'm trying to check to see if we got anybody from Twitch, because it says that Twitch isn't even connected yet. So hopefully there are people from Twitch. But
yeah, I don't know. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody in here. I think I saw one. Okay, there's a comment in here. So maybe there's...
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I just refreshed. We're live. We're live on Twitch. We're live all over the place. Now it's just a matter of people coming back to the flock, to the fold.
Yeah.
But, some buffering issues. There's some conspiracy theories out there that it might just be a service issue or an internet-wide issue, or some Russian hacking guns that got you.
It's possible. I do wanted to mention that the Face Like the Sun channel is backed up on library.tv now, lbry.tv/@facelikethesun. And so other than BitChute, it's another possible location to, preserve some of the things going on with all the stuff we publish. And so there you go, library.tv/@facelikethesun. So that's really the big only thing I wanted to share before we get started. Last time, I guess no one heard it because my microphone was apparently not working.
Something was wrong. Yeah. And that's lbry.tv/@facelikethesun.
Yes,
is that what it is?
That's correct.
Okay. There you go. Yeah. There's a good place to get all the archives. Okay. Well, sounds good. Let's jump right into it because we got a Flippy update.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Okay, for those who don't know, Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking over our jobs and enslaving our children and flirting with our spouses. And usually we talk about how, robots are taking all of the human jobs away, going to turn us all into a Star Trek utopian society. But today, Gonz, is not just manual labor getting taken over by the robots, but it's also... poetry, creativity. The AI's coming for you. This is an article from BusinessInsider.com titled, "Your Tweets Are a Blight." Elon Musk got roasted in a poem written by the AI created by a company he helped found. And it goes like this. Tesla CEO Elon Musk's notorious Twitter presence was the inspiration for an AI-generated poem written using the software from OpenAI, the company Musk himself helped found. According to The Economist, the San Francisco-based OpenAI supplied certain people, like artist Aram Sabedi, with an early version of the GPT-3 language in mid-July to test its capabilities. Sabedi used the algorithm to generate the poem entitled Elon Musk by Dr. Seuss, which you can read here. And I'm going to go to the full poem. Let's see how long it is. Oh, it's really long. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll read the little snippet they had here. The SEC said, Musk, your tweets are a blight. They really could cost you your job if you don't stop all this tweeting at night. Then Musk cried, why? The tweets I wrote are not mean. I don't use all caps, and I'm sure my tweets are clean. But your tweets can move markets, and that's why we're sore. You may be a genius and a billionaire, but that doesn't give you the right to be a bore. Sabetti's poem is published in full here. That's right. The AI-generated poem references Musk's oftentimes incendiary comments posted on Twitter, etc., etc., but the long and short of it is, Gons, it's not just nurses and burger flippers and janitors and manufacturing jobs all going to the robots, but the poets. The poets must watch out. Creativity is not just for human beings anymore, Gons.
That's good. We're going to have Elon's Neuralink stuff come out this month, so I'm sure one of the first things he will do is battle this whatever AI robot in the virtual space and have like a what are they called when you I totally forget what they're called when you rap against each other, a battle, and see who's
a rap battle,
see who's better. Elon's
Elon Muskrat, you smell so bad in the chat says, seriously, you're bringing me into this? Yes, Elon. Thank you for watching the show live, but the robots have something to say about you, buddy.
Yeah, and I love the picture they chose for Elon too in this article. Just totally insane looking. But anyway, is that all? Is that all for this Flippy update?
That's it. There's more to the article, but it's just jibber jabber, and we've got a lot of stories to get through. So I say let's go for it.
Here we got a bunch of updates and some things to catch up on. First off,
we interrupt this broadcast to give you a brief update. By the end of this timely interruption, you will be thoroughly updated.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
Hairy legs Joe Biden. This is Breitbart.com. Joe Biden, quote, unlike the African American community, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community. Oy, no.
Here he goes, putting his foot in his mouth again.
You want to play this whole clip here?
Yeah, I think the clip says it all.
Oh, okay, hold on. Here we go.
I put that program together to provide. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Are you going to re-engage with Cuba, though? I mean, I'm specifically wondering about, the Florida communities that are, incredibly interested in the Cuba issue and see status given to Venezuelans while Cubans are being deported.
The answer is yes. I'm going to engage. Yes. Yes. And by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things. You go to Florida, you find a very different attitude about immigration in certain places than you do when you're in Arizona. So it's a very diverse community.
Whoa.
There he goes again, Joe Biden making bold statements about his deep knowledge of the African American community, and in his own words, unlike the African American community, the Latino community is diverse. Okay, Joe, I think you've said quite enough.
I think we're going to cancel Joe Biden.
Cancel culture.
But there's a lot of theories about that he's not going to even make it to the election. That somebody else is going to take his place, and it's going to be one of those issues that's going to rile up the whole left Democrat crowd, and they're going to come out in droves to vote Trump out because whoever replaces Biden is going to get everyone in a tizzy. So I guess we got to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I would not, we still got time for an October surprise. And Biden just continues to reveal some deep-seated issues with the Democrat Party's perception of the black community that a lot of people in the black community are starting to realize, and even calling it a black community, it has some sort of impression of homogeny, as if they're incapable of holding their own opinions outside of, Democrat ideas. And there's huge movements against that. But, there you go. Biden running his mouth.
Cody's
again.
Twitch account on the Twitch chat said that he's like Bush Jr. And I would argue Bush Jr. was a little bit more agile. Joe's
slightly, only slightly.
Although remember that shoe that was thrown at Bush Jr.? He did a pretty good job ducking. I highly doubt Joe would duck. That thing would just hit him right in the face. But yeah, got to keep an eye on Joe.
There's only one way to find out.
You gonna throw a shoe at Joe Biden in his basement?
I won't, but I'm sure somebody will.
All right. Well,
yeah, he's in his protected bunker.
Yeah, well, we'll get to some Trump ISOs in a little bit here. But in the meantime, there's all this talk about masks. And
yes.
we've talked about how the whole Rona thing was just a setup for something else. And it very much could be with this headline.
If you're working alone, wear a mask. The mask's not for you. It's to protect the people you care about.
This is ChicagoTribune.com. CDC warns coronavirus measures could disrupt detection of rare, paralyzing polio-like disease in children. Be afraid, Basil. Be very, very afraid.
Whoa.
Health experts once thought 2020 might be the worst year yet for a rare, paralyzing disease that has been hitting U.S. children for the past decade, but they now say the coronavirus pandemic could disrupt the pattern for the mysterious illness which spike every other year starting in late summer. Every other year? Why every other year? It's kind of weird. Scientists say it's possible that mask wearing, school closures, and other measures designed to stop the spread of coronavirus may also hamper spread of the virus suspected of causing the paralyzing disease. Dr. David Kimberlin, a researcher at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, called it the $1 million question. We just simply don't know right now, as every researcher tends to say. But yeah, this whole thing, the polio-like disease in children that paralyzes them, I don't know. And this idea that, if you wear a mask and we keep things shut down, we can lower the possibility of people getting this paralyzed, or children getting this paralyzing disease. Interesting how, the whole coronavirus thing was not as effective on children. And I actually think there's the death rate of children under 14 is very, very low. And so now you got to have, something to fear. The children must fear, so there you go. We got that.
Right.
There's we got another story that we can bring it up now if you want, about kids being triggered, being out in nature.
Yeah, I'll jump into that. Yeah, this is from the dailymail.co.uk.
Yeah, and this is what is it?
I was waiting for those jingles.
I know, I'm trying to find it.
Jingles?
I'm trying to find the jingle for it. Well, it is a PSYOP.
They're blinding us with PSYOP.
So, there's that. What was the other one it was? I don't remember. Go ahead.
I'm not sure. The headline is, some children find spending time in nature distressing because it can trigger feelings of anxiety and despair linked to climate change.
Yuck.
While most children benefit from having time outdoors, for some youngsters, it is triggering feelings of anxiety and despair due to fears over climate change. These troubling emotions and their link to climate change have been studied by University of Columbia researchers for the British Ecological Society. In the first of its kind study to focus on children and teenagers connecting with nature, the team conducted a full review of other studies, articles, and books. Children and teenagers were triggered by the natural world and their inability to control what was happening to the unraveling biosphere, the team said. The authors found that measures currently used to connect children to the natural world can help others cope with feelings of fear linked to climate change. Within the past generation, children's lives have largely moved indoors with the loss of free-ranging exploration of the natural world, the team said. Quote, in response, many conservation organizations advocate connecting children with nature, and there has been rising interest in measuring young people's connectedness with nature, authors wrote. The review found that connecting with nature has many positive benefits for the well-being of a young person, including improving health and happiness. However, it wasn't universally positive. According to study author Dr. Louise Chawla, who said connecting with nature was a complex experience for many teenagers. Many children know they are inheriting a changing world that is likely to get worse, and this leads them to feelings of anxiety and despair, said Chawla. That doesn't mean it was all bad news. The team say that despite the strong emotions, there are significant benefits from being outdoors more often. Quote, there is strong evidence that children are happier, healthier, function better, know more about the environment, and are more likely to take action to protect the natural world when they spend time in nature, Chawla said. Several studies found that children's connections with nature increased with time spent in natural environments. This new study, which involved multiple pieces of literature, found time spent in the great outdoors was a predictor for active care for nature in adulthood. These findings support strategies and policies that ensure that young people have access to wild areas, parks, gardens, green neighborhoods, and naturalized grounds at schools, the team said. For those who are triggered when out in nature by the feeling of despair, they can't fix climate change. That despair reduces the chance they'll take any action. The review found an overlap in the strategies used to increase children's feelings of connection with nature and supporting them with the feelings of despair. Professor Chawla said these strategies include helping young people learn what they can do to protect the natural world. This is working both as individuals and working collectively with others, she said. The research covered in the review found that young people are more likely to believe a better world is possible when friends, family, and teachers listen sympathetically to their fears and give them a safe space to share their emotions. Chawla said that one of the most surprising findings from the review was the complete disconnect between researchers studying the benefits of childhood connection to nature and those studying responses to environmental threats. She added, quote, people who study children's connection with nature and those who study their coping with environmental risk and loss have been pursuing separate directions without referencing or engaging with each other. Quote, I am arguing that researchers on both sides need to be paying attention to each other's work and learning from each other. The findings have been published in the journal People and Nature. And I thought this was interesting, Gons, because regardless of the heavy weight of the science and the social engineering and everything to make these children care about the earth more, it turns out that now when they go out in nature, they're just too stressed out with the possibility of it being destroyed, which then leads to them to be less active in protecting it. So it's two things: either a big backfire from the climate change, either alarmism or
fear mongering.
The ubiquity of worrying about the fate of the earth has just caused them to be so uncomfortable being in nature that science shows they're probably going to do less to protect it. And I don't know if this was the plan or not the plan or how this worked out, but either way, nature is stressful, Gons.
I think a couple things. One, their plan is working.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
They want machines to keep them in the people's zoo and keep them safe. But also, scripturally speaking, I saw somebody in the chat mention it, but 2 Timothy 1:7, famous passage, for God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And if you're a kid and you're walking out, the amount of fear that's been pushed about climate change, we have to save the environment, it's all going to be destroyed, all this kind of stuff, that fear, anytime anybody pushes fear is not good, but that fear specifically being a big lie, that of course we have to take care of the earth. I'm not saying we shouldn't. We're responsible for our environment and we have to be good stewards of our environment. But this whole idea of it's all going to hell in a handbasket and there's nothing we can do, and especially because politicians and we're all done, that is a form of mind control that I think, I don't know if it's a backfire. I think it's more of just children believing the lie and being afraid. And I mean, you know, it's so misleading. And the picture they have here of this little kid crying and I don't know, he's in a little nature-y outside, and he's crying for sure. This is a Shutterstock image. So it's not even, you know, I'm guaranteeing the shot wasn't taken as a example from the authors of the article or the research that says like, oh, look, see, we put this child out in nature and he started crying. But it's just the whole thing seems to be a big lie, big deception to get kids to
big lie. Well, you know what? The interesting connections that come to mind is with what was formerly known as Agenda 21 or 2021, which then evolved into Agenda 2030 and then Agenda 2045.
It was Agenda 20. It was Agenda 21 for the 21st century. And then it was 2030 for their target dates and stuff. But yeah.
Okay. So, you know, for those who are unaware of this, you know, as sort of a global report, a global agenda, for ways to sustainably keep human beings within new fancy types of civilizations that are very insular, and there's no reason to go out and spread, you know, the virus of humanity across the land masses of the earth, but instead to concentrate populations into more controllable, city centers that are all fancy and sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, part of the agenda was to keep human beings in general from spreading too far and wide on the landmass. And, you know, making a big deal about how the earth is dying and giving kids, you know, anxiety attacks when they leave city limits is a good way, a good social engineering tactic to make sure that people don't get too wandery, don't have wandering eyes to go wonder what's going out in nature and actually gain some of the health and psychological benefits that can bring. Yeah. You know, it kind of reminds me of Brave New World at the beginning, the Aldous Huxley version of the dystopian future, where they would put during the programming phase of infants, they would put them in these rooms and there would be like a rose or other pieces of nature. But when the child approaches the piece of nature, they would shock the child through an electrified flooring. And this is pretty similar. I mean, it's having a similar effect. You know, in Brave New World, the children were programmed to fear nature, so they would stay, you know, obediently in the city centers of that dystopia. And it seems we're having a similar outcome now as well, which is, just another check box on the list of the predicted dystopian futures.
Well, you bring up the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, and you bring up Brave New World. Aldous Huxley, his brother Julian Huxley, was the first director of UNESCO, which is a United Nations education and science organization that's attached to the UN. And of course, part of the UN Sustainable Development Agenda, one of their goals, goal number 15, protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt the reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. It's interesting that they want people in the control, but they also want to control nature, you know, the way they would want to preserve the ecosystems. And you know, we only want you out in nature under our provision, under our conditions. It's a very different, it's a different thing than like, oh, just go out into nature because, hey, you might run into a mountain lion or something. Nature's dangerous and scary, but you know, if you go out with our agenda, then it will be good for you. This is a very Hegelian dialectic type of thing going on.
Sure. Yeah. No. And very interesting. So there you go. Don't let your kids out in nature. It's very stressful.
Apparently, it's stressing out your
safe
kids.
Space.
Yeah. I need my safe circle. I need that robot to draw a circle so I stay free of the Ronas.
Right.
Okay, so I wanted to quickly run through a couple things here. First off, just some prayers going out to anybody who has family related to the 17 people that have died in the Air India plane skids crash. Just saw this come in this morning, and always interesting when airplanes. I guess it was like an emergency landing type of situation, and some people died, so that's not good. But was it just obviously we always question things. Was it just a bad technology thing, or was somebody on board that the higher ups wanted gone? It's always an interesting question. But yeah, just to mention it, there's not much to say on it other than keep people in your prayers over there in India. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was I'm sure you saw it, Basil. We got emails about it. The Beirut explosion. Oh, the guy who I was gonna quote locked his account, so we can't see the footage that I had ready. Which was can you still get there, Basil? With the
let me give it a try here. No, he locked his account.
Interesting.
I am also not allowed into his account. Well, you want to take a second and search out that video? I know it exists in other places.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Stall a little bit here for you. I do want to thank some of the people who came into the chat. I saw that it is some peepers first time here, first time live. It was a rough day for your first day, but good job hanging in there. And just a little note, I'm getting some messages from the Twitch people that today the stream is coming across much smoother over at twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio than it is over on YouTube. So if it's not working for you on YouTube, head over to the Twitch account, twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio, and I think it'll come through a little bit better. And also remember, you can catch all past live streams, both on the YouTube channel, but also to remember to follow the RSS feed. That's the regular podcast version. The audio is significantly better. Most of the streaming glitches and things like that are edited out, and you get a nice, crisp, clean native recording of my voice instead of the Skype feed that comes in over the streaming thing there. So remember to subscribe to Canary Cry News Talk on whatever podcast catcher you use, Apple Podcasts being the sort of the main one people use. But also, we just got a little notice here that Amazon will now be streaming the podcast. I guess there's an Amazon Music or something. So if you're an Amazon Music person, Canary Cry News Talk and Canary Cry Radio are coming to your streaming service of preference there. So that's fun. There's just they keep popping out new podcast platforms, and of course the biggest companies in the world are the last companies to provide podcasts. And that's because monetizing podcasts is not an easy thing to do. It was originally RSS feeds. They were the freelance pirate media of the people. A lot of people don't remember this, but back when we started, most podcasts, they were independent. There was very little advertising, no big companies starting podcasts because it was popular and you could make money on it. It was kind of the pirate radio of the earlier 2000s, but now, of course, as we know, podcasts are all the rage, and so you've got big celebrities, starting podcasts and all this sort of stuff. Everybody's trying to make money off podcasting now, but it doesn't quite work how they think. But people love it, so the Amazon is going to be providing it for you, for anybody out there who uses Amazon Music. How you doing over there, Gons?
I found kind of an article that sort of goes over a little bit of it, but basically we got a lot of people messaging us about how there was, footage of a missile coming in, hitting the location where the explosion took place in Beirut. And the Twitter account that went private right before we decided to show it had a video, a side-by-side comparison of they're both the negatives of the footage, but one that showed clearly a missile coming in and one that did not. So, the question here, this article in particular that I have is saying, it's debunking the claims that it was a missile. But the question is, what came first? What was published first? Was the edited version published first, or did somebody edit in a missile? And I think it's one of those issues where we're just not going to know, because even if it's the first footage that came out with whatever came out, that could have been manipulated already. So we just have no idea at this point in time, which puts us in this.
And another thing that was very suspicious about this is for those who have experience in video and photography and things like that,
we just dropped completely on restream. It is claimed that these alternate videos that are in negative, they all say this is thermal imaging. Yeah, no, it's
they
not.
call it thermal imaging, and it's very obviously not thermal imaging. And so there's a lie right off the bat claiming that this is thermal imaging when it's not. It's what's called a negative, and it's, if you took pictures with cameras back when film was a thing, that's what you get on the film. It's a negative, and then when you actually develop the picture, you get the true colors. And so, first of all, this whole no missile thing, there's no missile on the actual footage, but for some reason they take the image, they put it into a negative, which is not thermal imaging. They claim it's thermal imaging, and then obviously a missile has been edited in. So I think that this missile thing is disinformation. I know it's exciting, and it's nice to have a conspiracy that there was a missile involved. I do not believe that there was a missile involved here, just because there are lies, blatant lies on the face of this quote unquote thermal imaging of a missile coming in.
Well, the thermal imaging thing for sure is just nonsense. Anybody with a video editing software can tell you that, or show you how to make a negative of any kind of footage.
Yeah, we could make a negative of this podcast and call it thermal imaging of this live stream, of course, of which there is none.
But at the same time, again, based on the fact that everything we see is through video and other people's video, it's just so hard to know exactly what's going on here with the reality of the situation. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to come to any conclusions and say that I know for sure that there was a missile involved or not. The footage of people claiming it's a missile, I think some of it is obviously faked. It's pretty clear on a couple of occasions that there's one that is being shown here on this article that has like a cartoon rocket or something, and it goes past the location. I mean, there's just no way that if it was a real missile, it would not behave the way it did in the footage. But again, we took the opportunity in the last episode to talk about directed energy weapons, and I also decided to publish a chapter from the book that never published, Cosmic Endgame, Secret Civilizations, Space Weapons, and the Antichrist War Machines. And of course, I wrote this back in 2013, 2014. Before the flat earth thing. So, before all you flat earthers tell me how there's no outer space, it was before all that happened. So, just keeping that in mind. But in it, I just published the chapter called Project Thor, the Rod of God. And this is technology that they've been working on allegedly for a long time. And it's a kinetic energy weapon. And it's the same theme that reoccurred we brought up during the directed energy weapons thing. It's the same thing. They can do it without being detected from satellites or from objects that are pretty high up that normal people won't be able to detect. And these kinetic bombardment weapons don't come just straight down. They come in a trajectory. So, and they come very fast. So I don't think it's anything you can really even see because I think,
and they're basically big rods of tungsten.
Tungsten rods, yes.
They're tungsten rods that when released from a satellite gain a lot of momentum coming through the atmosphere. They don't burn up because of the qualities of tungsten, and it's able to, create a kinetic explosion. And I think the idea is that the projectile itself, made of tungsten, is incinerated in the collision and thus leaves no trace of the rod of God.
Right.
And so, this is always an option as well, although the directed energy weapon also makes a lot of sense. But of course, it doesn't need to be either of those things. There's also tactical nuke options, but as well as, one thing that we didn't quite make a big point on last episode when we talked about it was all this ammonium nitrate was confiscated from a Russian-owned tanker, or not tanker, but vessel that was, through some weird bureaucratic reasons abandoned, and the, highly explosive potential cargo was stored for 6 or 7 years. So it's almost just been a time bomb sitting there, just waiting for something to set it off. So if you want to hear more of our breakdown of the Beirut explosion, you can check out the last episode.
Right. And the ammonium nitrate needs something else to ignite. So it wasn't, and people saying it's just fireworks, but maybe
it's not flammable on its own. You have to mix it with some sort of fuel, and anything as simple as sugar or gas or something. But ammonium nitrate without any mixture, it does not have that type of explosive capability.
Well, the other thing to mention was, and we didn't really, I don't think we mentioned it in the last episode, but Netanyahu, I think a week ago or a week before the explosion, was talking about Hezbollah, and he had this map that he was showing. It has these diagrams, and it was like
I believe that was actually a couple years.
Was it a couple years ago? I thought it was like a week
that.
before.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it was
I think it was a couple years.
Yeah, either way, it was the same port. It was like the exact same port where all that took place. So just something to keep in mind. That's interesting. You said a couple years because I heard a day before. I heard a week before. So
a week before, there was some talk about how Hezbollah had some agents or some operatives in Beirut, and Netanyahu referred to that. But the map situation, that was from 2018.
Okay. All right,
but either way, still funky. Who knows? I don't know. We're gonna keep the missile thing does not seem to be real.
No,
though.
not the footage anyway. That's being shared. But I have that Patreon post. It's available for anybody. It's a public post, so you don't have to be a patron of the Face Like the Sun channel to read it. So check it out. And I think we're ready to move on from that into
Sounds good.
Some Chinese news, I think. Right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to Chinese News!
And this is a couple stories, and speaking of Russia here, this is a couple stories that I wanted to compare and contrast next to each other, just to show what we're being told is just so ridiculous. This is CNN.com, mind you. Intelligence communities, pop up. Intelligence community's top election official. China and Iran don't want Trump to win re-election. Russia working against Biden. It's the headline there. I'll read a couple paragraphs here. The U.S. intelligence community's top election security official said in a statement Friday that China prefers an outcome where President Donald Trump is not reelected in November, and Russia is working to denigrate former Vice President Joe Biden's White House bid. Back to the Russia thing. Quote, we assess that China prefers that President Trump, whom Beijing sees as unpredictable, does not win re-election, said William R. Ivanina, director of the National Counterintelligence and Security Center, In a statement updating that election threat landscape heading into the November elections, quote, China has been expanding its influence efforts ahead of November 2020 and to shape the policy environment in the United States. Whoa.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, pressure political figures it views as opposed to China's interest and deflect the counter criticisms of China. We assess that Russia is using a range of measures to primarily denigrate former Vice President Biden and what it sees as an anti-Russia establishment. This is consistent with Moscow's public criticism of him when he was vice president for his role in the Obama administration's policies on Ukraine and its support for the anti-Putin opposition inside Russia. And it kind of goes on here, but first off, okay, is this not blatantly admitting that China is messing with American politics, number one?
Seems to be.
Pretty straightforward. And number two, okay, the whole Russia thing, you know, the Russia gate, Russia, all that whole deal. There's another story that came out here. Remember, follow the money, right? Follow the money. This is asia.nikkei.com. This is a Japanese news outlet, and it was published yesterday. China and Russia ditch dollar and move toward financial alliance. Yeah, speaking of money.
Financial alliance.
$100 billion.
I don't have any money.
Russia and China are partnering to reduce their dependence on the dollar, a development some experts say could lead to a financial alliance between them. In the first quarter of 2020, the dollar's share of trade between Russia and China fell below 50% for the first time on record, according to recent data from Russia's central bank and Federal Customs Service. The greenback was used for only 46% of settlements between the two countries. At the same time, the euro made up an all-time high of 30%, while their national currencies accounted for 24%, also a new high. Russia and China have drastically cut their use of the dollar in bilateral trade over the last several years. As late as 2015, approximately 90% of bilateral transactions were conducted in dollars, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on here. Okay, so let me get this straight. China and Russia are working together to get rid of the dollar as, you know, the world reserve currency. They're just moving on to their own thing. And at the same time, CNN's telling us that China is against Biden, or against Trump. I mean, China's against Trump, who is controlled by Russia. Does it just seem like there's proxy happening all over the place here? And America is kind of stuck in the middle of the situation where it's just like a big coup from all the different countries, all the different communistic countries getting together and making it look like they're on either side of a political divide in the United States. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's the issue of the theatrics of it again, you know, and that's part of the problem when you're trying to keep an eye on these geopolitical issues is a lot of times, especially, you know, you got to do some reading between the lines to actually get the real information because, you know, countries and other geopolitical powers will obviously there's propaganda and there's positioning, but then there's, you know, weird little alliances and actions being taken, like, for instance, cutting out the dollar, that seem to go against what they're saying publicly, but then show that, you know, there's a more complex situation going on just beneath the surface. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah. So I just wanted to compare and contrast those two articles because clearly there's a conflict of information when it comes to that. And I would tend to follow the money more so than follow CNN. I don't know about you, Basil. Maybe you're a closet CNN junkie.
Well, I am kind of a CNN junkie, but not for the reasons you're implying.
Okay. All right.
I love it. I think CNN in the way that they present information tells more truth and I might say different truth than what they're trying to express, but they're just so blatant in the way that they do it that you can get a lot of truth out of CNN. It's just not exactly what they want you to get.
CNN is the greatest psyop because they have been the strong arm of fake news, right? So they want everybody to not believe them. You know, it's this reverse psychology happening.
Well, that's certainly an interesting way to put it.
I don't think that's what's going on. But anyway, we got a couple clips of interesting things that Donald Trump has said, and we'll start with this first one because it's a little more fun, and then it gets a little more serious. This first one, I never thought I would ever quote the DNC war room, but this is worth clipping because it's a pretty good flub here. This is Donald Trump trying to pronounce Yosemite.
When their eyes widen in amazement as Old Faithful burst into the sky, when they gaze upon Yosemites, towering sequoias.
Yosemites. Yosemites. What up?
Yeah, I'm always hesitant to mock somebody for pronouncing a word strangely because it just means that they've read it instead of heard
and he's
it.
Clearly reading.
I think it's always good. It's always good for people to read. So that's cool. But yeah, Yosemites. That's is a nice little flow.
It's a pretty funny one. I don't hold him against it. Yeah. He's just reading, off his little notes there. But and I think he knew it was wrong because he repeated it. He's like, Yosemite?
That doesn't sound right.
Yosemites? I don't know. Just keep going.
He just takes a running start at it, trips, and then goes back and just charges right in again and trips right again. So that's always fun.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some, 14D chess going on with that one too.
Oh, of course. It's all part of the plan.
All part of the plan. Got to trust the plan. Okay, so this is the other clip that's been going around of President Trump making some very interesting comments here. This clip happens to be 33 seconds long.
Ding, ding.
But here we go. The audio's not great, but I think you'll get the gist of it here.
It has to be a good product, but the middlemen. Well, the rebate that I'm doing cuts out the middlemen and it reduces costs, and the money goes back to the people purchasing the drugs. So I have a lot of enemies out there. This may be the last time you'll see me for a while. A lot of very, very rich enemies, but they are not happy with what I'm doing. But I figure we have one chance to do it, and no other president's going to do what I do. No other president would do a favored nations, a rebate, a buy from other nations at much less cost. Nobody.
And he's talking about the what is it? The medical, pharmaceutical.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical industry with all of its middlemen. He came out with a pretty intense plan to cut out the middlemen and help right some wrongs in the pharmaceutical industry and the medical insurance and just the healthcare industry in America. And we said it when he came out and did it. He's going to make a lot of enemies with this. Obviously, Big Pharma being one of the most powerful groups in the world. I mean, so much more so the U.S., but also the world. And, disrupting that industry is going to make a lot of very rich people very mad. And he says that here, and I think people are starting to understand it. But he also has that very ominous comment about you may not see me for a while.
Yeah.
Because he needs to hide from the big pharma assassins or something.
Yeah. I mean, I've been hearing from a lot of the hardcore Trumpites and some of the QAnon folks suggesting that there have already been like 50 something assassination attempts on Trump, but they've all been unsuccessful apparently. I don't know. I don't have any of the evidence. It wouldn't surprise me either. I'm sure every president has had some number of assassination attempts. But it is strange to say it, to just be on stage and say, you won't see me for a while. I might, go in my bunker or whatever. It's just a weird thing to say. And of course,
maybe he's just priming everybody for him to go hide in his basement like Biden is.
Maybe. Are we going to have a,
have you seen
what?
Have you seen that new Biden's new very popular nickname, Hayden Biden?
No, I haven't.
It's pretty funny.
But this is another reason why I think they're going to replace Biden at some point, and they're going to they might take him out. You know, they might bring not just take him out, but do it in a way where the Democratic side gets a lot of sympathy votes. You know, you never know. I'm just kind of thinking.
You're talking about Biden.
I'm talking about Biden. Yeah. But
yeah, well, like I said, there's certainly time for that.
But given Trump is, this is election year. We're 2.5 months away, 3 months away from the election. I'm sure things are going to get pretty wild here. Things are supposed to get crazy anyway. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty crazy last time, but I feel like this was kind of a heads up, maybe, that things are going to get pretty wild. So.
Yeah,
just something to keep an eye on. And if that wasn't enough, and if he's poking at China again.
Welcome to Chinese News.
Yeah, so there's been a lot going on with the whole TikTok debacle, but let me bring this to you from Ars Technica. The headline is Trump declares TikTok and WeChat national emergency. Preps bans. So this is interesting. We have not really seen this happen since this technological age. Trump did pull this type of thing with Huawei, which was a very controversial thing to do, but since then so many countries have joined on with this Huawei ban, and if you missed that story, Huawei was shown to be a technological industry operative of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and was using it to spy on everybody all over the world, not just in the sort of like, ooh, we get your data type of way, but the like actual geopolitical spying going on, right. With political operatives having Huawei phones. But back to the TikTok and WhatsApp situation. The article reads, the White House's campaign against the China-based developers of popular apps escalated dramatically in the last day as President Donald Trump declared both TikTok and WeChat to be national emergencies, and said the administration will ban or curtail their operations in September. So we actually have a date on this now. Trump, late Thursday, signed a pair of very similar executive orders addressing the threat allegedly posed by TikTok and WeChat. Quote, the spread in the United States of mobile applications developed and owned by companies in the People's Republic of China continues to threaten the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. Both orders read, quote, the United States must take aggressive action against the owners of the apps to protect our national security. Why? The White House explained in its national security concerns about the apps and their parent firms in a pair of highly similar letters to congressional leaders. TikTok, quote, automatically captures vast swaths of information from its users. The TikTok letter reads, continuing, this data collection threatens to allow the Chinese Communist Party access to Americans' personal data and proprietary information, potentially allowing China to track the locations of federal employees and contractors, build dossiers of personal information for blackmail, and conduct corporate espionage. TikTok also reportedly censors content that the Chinese Communist Party deems politically sensitive, such as content concerning protests in Hong Kong and China's treatment of Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities. TikTok may also be used for disinformation campaigns that benefit the Chinese Communist Party. WeChat does all that too, the other letter alleges, and it also captures the personal and proprietary information of Chinese nationals visiting the United States, thereby allowing the Chinese Communist Party to a mechanism for keeping tabs on Chinese citizens who may be enjoying the benefits of a free society for the first time in their lives. The political rhetoric in the orders makes it clear that in addition to concern about Americans' user data potentially being sent to and digested by a foreign government, the orders are also part of the ever-escalating trade tensions between the Trump administration and China that has led to bans on equipment from Huawei and ZTE and increased tariffs on important goods and among other actions. The exact parameters of the orders are vague and unspecific, but neither explicitly bans the use of WeChat or TikTok in the US, nor do the orders technically prohibit the developers' respective parent companies, Tencent and ByteDance. Gamers out there will recognize Tencent as the mobile app developer for PUBG. A very popular battle royale game on mobile. So, this Tencent company is involved in a lot of different things. Anyways, moving on. They will prohibit developers' respective parent companies, Tencent and ByteDance, from operating in the United States. What the orders do ban, however, are transactions related to ByteDance or WeChat, but not apparently the rest of Tencent. Those transactions are not clearly identified in either order, which instead say the Secretary of Commerce has 45 days to identify the transactions subject to the order. The order does not appear to conflict with Microsoft's plans to acquire TikTok. And that's something we'll get into in a second. Provided that the companies do indeed manage to get through talks and pull off a deal by September 15th. However, the orders could theoretically prohibit distribution of the apps by Apple App Store or Google Play, which would effectively keep them out of the hands and off the phones of new users in the United States. TikTok, like other social networks, makes money through both in-app purchases and selling advertising. It is possible that either or both of those revenue streams could be cut off by the order, as selling anything to users or doing businesses, or to businesses could be considered a kind of transaction. WeChat is not widely used inside the United States. In China, however, it's basically the everything app, where an American mobile user might queue up an Uber, Amazon, Grubhub, Facebook Messenger, Venmo, Apple, or Google Pay, to run through an hour's worth of chat and errands. A mobile user in China would do basically all of that and more through WeChat. All of those functions help generate revenue for WeChat, but it's not clear which would or would not be considered transactions for the administration's purposes. So, that they mentioned there was Microsoft's plan to acquire TikTok, and this has been discussed in connection with the Trump administration's, fight against TikTok and other Chinese apps. That, Microsoft was trying to purchase the American business side of TikTok to sort of bring the app to the homeland, to put it one way. A threatened ban and all this attention, negative attention coming from the government, I'm sure that's going to help Microsoft get a better price on the deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily his plan, but, Trump is a businessman, so there might be some behind the scenes conversations going between Microsoft and the Trump administration.
Yeah, and the article goes on to talk about this clean network purge, and that's another interesting thing here because part of the problem is that a lot of the technology that was outsourced is built in China, and so they have the ability to sort of put things, spyware or spying capabilities from the bottom of the stack, so to speak. So. That part of that and having some of that type of infrastructure come back to the U.S., that's probably a good thing in one sense. But, it's weird because we have this, the United States itself is guilty of using the surveillance apparatus against its people. So, it's kind of, it's weird how
and that's... Well, that's a big part of it is, a big part of the conversation, especially from kids on TikTok who don't want TikTok to go away is, Facebook already takes all my information, this app and that app. They already have all our information. Why would I care about TikTok having my information? And, forget about you as an individual caring if China has your information. But what we have here is a competition between the United States government and the CCP. The United States government wants to be the one in control of receiving all your information. It's not of as much value to the American government and, commercial interests of such that another country would have all your information as well. And so what we're also watching happen is an economic battle between China and America. And you can compare this to the oil wars that we've been going through for 100 years because big data has been called the new oil. Right. Part and parcel, data is more valuable than, crude oil. So when you think about America and all of the shady things it does and all of the big moves and all the geopolitical tides that move in and out and have been doing so for 100 years to protect American interests in oil, now you're fighting the same battle with the new oil, which is data. And so, on one hand, you as an individual might not necessarily be at risk if a Chinese company has your information. Not to say that you're not at risk, but let's just take a step back. You might not personally be affected by the Chinese government having your information, but why would America give up American oil, being data, an American commodity? Why would they allow a foreign government to collect an American commodity? This is simply the American government, trying to secure a commodity on behalf of the American people, because it wants the sole benefit from the economic ramifications of this big data being sent overseas. So that's kind of the macro level of what we're looking at. It's one thing to try to convince a kid to, get rid of TikTok, to not send their information to China. Might not be the biggest deal in the world, but on a geopolitical scale, you have powerful countries fighting over a commodity that will inevitably, you want to keep on your shores. You don't want to be sending it overseas, just like oil. So that's kind of the big zoomed out picture of what's going on.
What's really interesting is I just pulled up this state.gov announcing the expansion of the Clean Network to safeguard America's assets. And this was published on August 5th, 2020. And it mentions clean carrier, clean store, clean apps, clean cloud, clean cable. Those are the different bullet points. And I thought it was very interesting because at the very end, I look at Bible prophecy as a sort of an end game to all of this, but I thought it was strange here. The United States calls for our allies and partners in government and industry around the world to join the growing tide to secure our data. Excuse me. I got the burps. From the CCP's surveillance state and other malign entities. Building a clean fortress around our citizens' data will ensure all of our nations' security. I find it weird that he would mention the word, or they would mention the word fortress as this idea, because, I've talked about this in several videos on the Face Like This on YouTube channel. Daniel 11, I think it's 38 and 39, somewhere around there. Let me get to it here. Let's see. The king who exalts himself, talking about the man of sin, and in their place he will honor a God of fortresses, a God his fathers did not know, which is interesting because it talks about, it's not a God that, the former pagan gods, but it's a God of fortresses. I think King James has it forces. But, and then it says in verse 39, he will attack the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign God, and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him, making them rulers over many and distributing the land for a price. And for a few hundred years, this passage with fortresses, it was like, people thinking it's a giant fort, like a literal castle type of situation. But in our modern era, when, at least for our generation, with data being this so important thing, I find it very intriguing that the God of forces or fortresses is mentioned, and how they would relate it to, in this document, the Clean, the Clean Network project. and talking about creating a clean fortress surrounding data. And again, I've made the connection before, but just another data point, so to speak, to support such theories, I guess. But I don't know, just something to point out, something I noticed.
Yeah, no, it is very interesting. And this whole thing will continue. But I think the basic concept is this is just another geopolitical war of commodity more than, anything else. And that's an easy way to explain it to people who just insist on saying how little they care if China has their information. Right. It's just a continuing on this route of giving up our most precious commodity, our data, for almost nothing in return.
Yes. And we got one more quick thing that I wanted to mention before we go into break, because we're running low on time because we wasted so much time getting this episode going. And this is from the NewYorkDailyNews.com. And if the article loads here, wow, the headline completely changed from when I was looking at it earlier. Classic situation here. The headline now is, I'm sure de Blasio's AC is working. Angry Middle Village residents without power for second time in 4 days. And it says here, 2 sounds echoed through the streets of Middle Village when the power went out for a second time in 4 days, the groaning of generators and the moaning of those without one. Angry Queens residents asked plenty of pointed questions about received few hold on. Angry Queens residents asked plenty of pointed questions but received few answers Friday after a 5:30 a.m. explosion and blackout left 5,000 customers without electricity barely 24 hours after power returned to the wake of tropical storm Isaias. Food was again cooled in ice-filled bathtubs. Kids charged their phones in cars, and calls to Con Ed only led to more aggravation. Quote, I'm sure de Blasio's AC in his apartment is working, said an irate Brian Coulter. It's terrible. Con Ed will not answer the phones. We're on the back burner. Neighbor Joseph Giandolfo, a heart transplant recipient, struggled to breathe after the air conditioning went out early Friday morning. Guess what? He said, I need air conditioning. The other day I slept in the backyard. When the sun went to the back, I went out to the front. The electricity disappeared before the sun rose Friday over a massive swath of Manhattan and parts of Queens, with power knocked out to more than 180,000 people, and subway services disrupted across the Upper East Side, Upper West Side, and Harlem. Queens, with 26,717 residents still in the dark, still has twice as many outages as any other borough. And it goes on here and talks about the outage. And have you seen the video footage of the outage from people, just social media posting?
I have not.
It's pretty eerie. It's a whole place going down. Just complete darkness all around. This is one here from a tweet, 4:22 a.m. Darkness. All right, yes, complete darkness. But the footage shows, this person doing a kind of a scan. What's the word I'm looking for?
Paramedics?
No, not paramedics. Whatever. Anyway, panning across her neighborhood there, and it's all dark. There are other footage of just the entire sort of city in darkness. And, this would just be a normal, hey, there's a blackout, if it wasn't for a very interesting factoid. Now, this article mentioned Con Ed, which is the energy company. And I went to Con Ed here, and it shows all the outage locations, outagemap.con, it's Con Ed, it sounds like cond.com, and it's Con Edison. And if this would load here, I forgot that I had to reboot my computer here, so hopefully all this is still in the same spot. But it shows basically the outage area in New York, in Brooklyn, in Queens, and Upper Manhattan there. And there's an area that is very close to another area with a very peculiar person, you know that lady Ghislaine? Is that how you say her name? What was the way you say it? Maxwell? Ghislaine.
Yeah.
Her little prison that she's staying at recently in Brooklyn, if I can zoom in properly here, is literally right where all the outages are taking place. So very interesting that we are having these outages in a very close proximity to where Ghislaine is staying. And that's not the only weird thing, because last year there was a big outage in New York. I think it was July 13th, according to my notes here, where there was a big New York blackout. And it wasn't 10 days later, July 23rd, where Epstein was found with his first suicide attempt. And then it wasn't until August 9th and 10th, which is coming up here. We're coming up on a year of the whole situation there with Epstein didn't kill himself. But, here it is.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
We're coming up on a year anniversary, and I just think it's weird that the pattern here of a blackout, then all this talk about Epstein trying to kill himself, and then eventually allegedly committing suicide. And this same story here of the same areas, or the same area that Ghislaine is staying, almost exact location. I think there's an outage literally right on that spot there, where this Manhattan detention center is in Brooklyn. There is an outage. So I wonder what's going down there. I'm sure no one's going to report on it right now because everyone's just worried about electricity or having power. But convenient to get her out or get a body double or something, right?
Yeah, no, it's very suspicious, and it's following a similar pattern to the Epstein issue. And I gotta say, I'm very surprised that she's made it this long. But there's still time. She's not even set to be tried until next year, so there's a lot of time for things to go wrong. And yeah, if someone out there perchance was a conspiratorial-minded person, it would be convenient for the power to go out again, right where she's being held. It takes a couple minutes for the prison to turn on the backup generators, and that's a few minutes where either a body double can be snuck in without any risk of cameras seeing, or, et cetera, et cetera. Not saying so. I'm saying if some crazy person out there had a conspiratorial bent to their thinking, that might be a possibility.
We're having a lot of problems with the stream today.
I know. And also, what's happening on my side as well is my computer keeps locking up.
Yeah, mine was locking up a lot too earlier. So I don't know.
Yeah, which is really weird, which doesn't really happen for me very often. And, my recording software keeps suspiciously omitting a waveform from the file that it's recording. So I'm going to pray that it's still doing its job. But a lot of really funky computer bugs going on today. Maybe
with all the news.
And, of course, the live...
I was going to say, I think there's a delay.
Of course, the live streams keep dropping.
Yeah, the live stream keeps dropping. Maybe with the delay, the Chiners are starting to press the buttons, They're like, oh, we must start messing with the thing now. So, press the disrupt button or something. I don't know.
Yep. Just it's just a button that says annoy them. Basil and Gons. You don't want to make them martyrs by completely destroying their capability, but you just want to make it hard enough where they question everything.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, we're pretty much out of time, but we can quickly thank some people.
Oh, wow. We are out of time. This is crazy. Wow. Today was a crazy day. Sorry about that, everybody.
I know, it's such a
This is some serious issues, but I think that's okay. I think that was an okay thing. Yeah, dang, we got to push out this George Floyd thing again, which that's okay. I mean, that's an ongoing thing. So I'm okay with that. There is one, let's take a quick break. Or do you want to just go out? What do you think? What do you feel in your heart, Gons?
I
have
feel
we done
bad.
it? Have we Have we persevered enough? What's the deal?
I feel bad not thanking people though, but we can add them.
No, we do need to thank people. Let's take a quick break, and I've got a really quick story that I think is really important after the break.
Okay.
And then we'll go out.
All right, here we go.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
Okay, people, thank you. We're just going to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. After the break, we've got a very important Wackchine update, and for all you patriots out there, you're not going to want to miss it. But we're just going to take this quick break, probably quicker than usual, but we want to thank the producers of the show, and we want to thank our Twitch followers. Gonz, are you ready?
Yes, I got my demo ready.
We like to thank our Twitch followers because watching on Twitch is the best way to benefit Gonz and I when it comes to these live streams. We get almost no benefit from from YouTube besides the making it available for people on YouTube. That's benefit enough to keep doing it. But if you watch us on Twitch, it helps us out a lot. So we're going to thank some people. Here we go. We got Quandary 1. Thank you, Quandary 1. We got Winter Guard. Thank you, Winter Guard. We've got Jesus, Yeshua, Yahushua.
All right.
Wow, a lot of things there. We got Monchichi. We got AM 1284.9.
A radio station?
It sounds like it. We've got Lynette SR. Lynette's R. Thank you. We got Mary Dom. We got Calming Psychosis. Ooh. You know, we have Dame Island Girl must have followed us again, but she's on the list here. So thank you, Dame Island Girl.
Ooh, Dame.
Yes, she's
our one and only.
The first Dame. Yeah. Yes. Uh-oh. Wow, now the VR is going out of control. We got Pray with Fire. We got Flawless.
Oh, was that a P or a T or what?
PTHALOS.
Oh, wow.
Flawless. Thank you. Stouffer, 1987. We got another fighter entering the ring as Basil's cat mom.
Oh, gosh. Here we go.
The drama continues. We've got Walking Liberty. We've got Catheter.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
Oh, no. Okay, I read that wrong. So it's spelled C-A-T-H 8, the number 8, R.
Oh, okay.
So I was reading it as catheter.
Oh my gosh.
Like a catheter.
No.
But it's not. I think it's supposed to be cat hater. I like catheter.
That was
Thanks, catheter.
That was just
They're trying to trigger me by hating cats, but instead I read it as catheter.
It didn't even work.
So that's your name now. Sorry. Yeah. Wally Boy 11. Skycaster 15. J Therese. T Money 587. Flipper of the Sea. Ooh. And lastly, we got Sarah Cara S.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all our new Twitch followers. We appreciate that very, very much. You guys are the best. And next, we want to thank some new producers of the show. Now, just for a quick explanation, folks, we do not make a habit of gaining your trust and your attention, turning you into a commodity, turning around and selling your attention to an advertising company or a corporation for our own personal gain. We just don't think that's the right way to go. We believe that's one of the main problems with the world today, causing all sorts of issues with fake news and the media. It's all centered around advertising. And so we decided, hey, you know what a great way to keep our integrity and not rely, not have to worry about not being brand safe? Well, you just don't sell advertising. So that's what we do. Instead, we give the opportunity to our listeners to not just be listeners, but to be producers of the show, because it's the real world. If you help pay for a piece of media to be created, you are not just a generous donor. You are a producer of the show. And it's time to thank some producers. Guns, are you ready? You got your donger ready? Gosh. All right. I'm going to go right off of the Patreon list because it looks like we had some people come in today.
Oh, we did.
So thank you very much, everybody. Yeah. So I'm going to start out here with a big old thank you to Amy. Thank you, Amy, for becoming a producer. Now, for those who don't know, I'm reading from patreon.com/CCNT. That's patreon.com/CCNT. It's the easiest way to become a producer of the show, and that's who we're thanking now. So thank you, producer Amy. Then we have a new producer, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. And Amy.
Thank you very much, Jennifer and Amy. And we got a new producer, John.
Right. Oh, a bunch coming in.
I know. They all came in at the last minute here. It's very, very nice. Thank you. So we got, who did I say? I said John. Then we have, that's a deletion. Next one, Jeffrey. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thanks to our new producers at Canary Cry, patreon.com/CCNT, Amy, Jennifer, John, and Jeffrey.
All right.
AJs, a lot of AJs there. Next, I'm going to head over to patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio, which is an alternate Patreon account if you would rather support us there. And we have one new patron. Well, I can't remember if we read this person last time, but Clarence. You get a double shout out, Clarence, if we didn't
I don't think we did
do that last time. Okay, great. Now, here's the thing, folks. A lot of people they don't like Patreon. There's plenty of reasons not to like Patreon. They've been nice to us, but that's okay. If you're not a fan of Patreon, that is okay. Don't worry. Head over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. canarycryradio.com/support is a great place to become a producer of the show. We've got PayPal options. You can do recurring monthly, or if commitment is not your thing, you can make a donation in any amount that you would like. A one-time donation in any amount. As well as some cryptocurrency options. Gons, who has come in on PayPal since the last episode?
We have a couple people. The P's came in. We have producer Patrick.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
And we do have producer Paul as well.
Producer Patrick, producer Paul. Thank you guys so much.
Yes. And
is that it?
We have some jingle. Another way to support the show and producership is sending us jingles or sending us art. And today we have our art jingle, if that makes sense. And this was sent in by Mark, and he cleverly took a clip from Dr. Zoidberg in Futurama and made it into a jingle that we might use for our artists.
One art, please.
So we ask all artists out there, one art, please. Or in the case of Allie, I think maybe like 50 arts.
There's at least one.
At least one, yes. And just wanted to show the artwork real quick that we got in for this episode. The first one was from Clayton. Clayton sent in a painting. It looks like... I think he was prompted to send it because the artwork of the last episode was a giant explosion in sort of a city a setting. Very much similar to, or I guess it was, what I was trying to do with the art was trying to show in a way the situation there in Beirut. But he painted this back in 2012. So very much, maybe prophetic in a sense. But so thank you, Clayton. We like to have show specific art, but in this case, I think he was compelled to share it. And it's just a painting of a city background with an explosion and a large plume. And so there you go. Yeah. Very well done.
Very dramatic. It's a very striking and dramatic piece.
Yes.
Very good job. Thank you very much.
Yes. And we also have a second piece of art from Patrick is a Monkey's wife. I always question. I'm not sure if Patrick is a Monkey is the name of the wife's handle or if that's Patrick's thing and it's his wife. Anyway, we have another hand-drawn.
Thinking too much, guys.
I know. Hand-drawing, it's a bird. And then a bird on top of a cage saying, it's a plane. But really, it's their version of the Canary Cry News Talk logo, which triggers some people because it's a globe. In this case, it is a cage that is open.
Oh, it's the dome.
It's the flat Earth dome.
The flat earthers.
Yes.
Oh, I get it.
Yes, and I did read.
Very good.
Somebody in the comments very early on said that it's the true earthers, not the flat earthers. It's true earthers.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Very good.
It's got a cat.
Yes. Wake up.
I know. It's got a little kitty cat sleeping on the inside, and the sun and the moon, both within the cage.
Yes.
So thank you for that piece of art.
The
And
dome theory. Very good.
The last one, of course, we can't go an episode without artwork from Allie. Another hand-drawn horse. This is Marry Me Basil as a horse, because I can't draw humans.
Yes. She sent in, I mean, this, I will say this, Allie, you are one of the most prolific and appreciated artists we have on the show. But there was an email that came in with 3 drawings of horses, and one was Basil as a horse, Gons as a horse, Marry Me Basil as a horse. So very talented, very good horse drawings.
Yeah, we'll show the other horses.
Definitely stretching the limits of the confines of showing art on the show. But very good. Thank you very much, Gazlin Bonds in the chat. Always appreciate your art coming through.
Yes.
And remember, you can check out this art. If you're listening to just the audio, you can go to canarycrynewstalk.com, check out the show notes. Art will be there. And it's been a while since I've done a big art post on Facebook, but I'm planning on doing it soon. So keep an eye out on the Facebook page. Big art drop coming soon. Let's see here. Anything else before we get back into it,
Just
guys?
a quick thank you to That Night Wind for continuing to post the timestamps. Although this one might be not very good because I think the live stream or the video version is going to be awful with skips and pauses and all kinds of horribleness. So,
yes. And before we wake up and get back into the show, I do want to mention we see all of your chats. We know the streams are glitchy. We know things are bad. We don't know what's going on. We're having computer problems on both sides and internet problems on Gonza's side. And it seems like something is going on within our stream software, the product that we use. So we are completely out of control of what's going on. We are just having to push through. So we understand the stream is bad. We will do our best to fix it for next time. But this is a great opportunity. If you haven't done it yet, you need to do this because this is an example of how bad things can get, whether this is sabotage or simply some tech problems. You must go use a podcast app in whatever fashion you like that, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Google Play, whatever it is. Subscribe to the Canary Cry News Talk RSS feed. Use a podcast app. Subscribe to the podcast because, like I said earlier in the show, podcasting is the media of the people. We broadcast on all sorts of other platforms just because that's kind of what you do. You got to do it. But if all that stops working, if we never stream again, if we are sabotaged to the grave, you can always catch. We'll still be doing episodes, and you can catch it on the podcast feed. It is a must that you subscribe to the podcast in its podcasty form. The audio is significantly better, and there are less technical issues to get between you and the show, you and the truth. So make sure you do that. If this episode is not a dire warning, I don't know what else it's going to take. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast. And Gons, I think it's time to wake up.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Wake up time.
Wake up
Wake
time.
up. All right, folks. We got one or two more things we got to go through here, and then we're going to go out. But this is coming from USA Today, Gonzo. And the article is titled, Defeat COVID-19 by Requiring Vaccination for All. It's not un-American, comma, it's patriotic.
What?
Dun, dun, dun.
That makes no sense.
I know. Hit me with that vaccine jingle.
And before you go into this, Basil, in the YouTube chats, Africa's favorite witch doctor, the Bill Gates guy, he said, people, once you're vaccinated, the buffering will go away. Melinda has assured me of this, and he never lies.
Oh man! Wow,
brutal.
Oh, very, very layered. A lot of layers to that. Thank you so much. Africa's favorite witch doctor, Bill Gates. All right. The article reads, to win the war against the novel coronavirus that has now killed over 158,000 people in this country, the only answer is compulsory vaccination for all of us. And while, it's interesting because I make no qualms about it. I've got a bunch of normie friends, and they range from liberal to libertarian to conservatives. And many of them, if it's not really a right or left issue, it's a normie issue where almost all of them will say they're not going to force vaccinations. Nobody wants that. It's not about forced vaccinations. We're all going to get vaccinated like we already do because we want to protect. There's no forcing going on. This is America. And I just think that is so painful. Your words are painful. Stop it. And here it is. To win the war against the novel coronavirus that has now killed over 158,000 people in this country, the only answer is compulsory vaccination for all of us. And while the measures that will be necessary to defeat the coronavirus will seem draconian, even anti-American to some, we believe that there is no alternative. Simply put, getting vaccinated is going to be our patriotic duty. The reason: when an effective vaccine is available for COVID-19, it will only defeat the pandemic if it is widely used, creating herd immunity. It is important to note that during an epidemic, there is no threshold above which the protection conferred by herd immunity cannot be improved. Thus, the more people who are immunized, the lower risk for all of us, including those who are not vaccinated. Nor is there an alternative to vaccine-induced herd immunity in a pandemic. Relying on enough people to people becoming infected and then immune is dangerous, as exemplified by the Swedish experience, where the COVID-19 mortality rate exceeds that of its more cautious neighbors. Broad induction of immunity in the population by immunization will be necessary to end this pandemic. In simple terms, a refusal to be vaccinated threatens the lives of others. So here's what America must do when a vaccine is ready. 1. Make vaccinations free and easily accessible. 2. Exempt only those with medical contraindications to immunization. It is likely that more than one vaccine platform will prove effective, as was the case for the polio vaccines, and as a result, medical conditions that prohibit all COVID-19 vaccines will be rare. One of them is being pregnant, ladies. 3, do not honor religious objections. The major religions do not officially oppose vaccinations. You hear that, Gons? Do not honor religious objections. 4, do not allow objections for personal preference, which violate the social contract. Oh, we cannot violate the social contract, Gons. Moving on. How can government and society assure compliance with protective vaccines. Vaccine refusers could lose tax credits or be denied non-essential government benefits. Health insurers could levy higher premiums for those who, by refusing immunization, place themselves and others at risk, as is the case for smokers. Private businesses could refuse to employ or serve unvaccinated individuals. Schools could refuse to allow unimmunized children to attend classes. Public and commercial transit companies, airlines, trains, and buses could exclude refusers. Public and private auditoriums could require evidence of immunization for entry. The only legal limitation on government or private action is that it not be discriminatory. And it's hard to see how discrimination would occur if vaccinations were free and accessible to all. How then should immunizations be documented? A registry of immunization will be needed with names entered after immunization is completed. Adequate immunization. What? Immunization. Sorry. Adequate immunization may require more than a single vaccination, and the durability of protection by different vaccines may vary and may not be lifelong, requiring periodic booster immunizations. Thus, immunized persons will need to receive expiration date stamped certification cards, which could be issued to all who are immunized in the country, whether here legally or not. These measures may seem draconian, no kidding, and would be costly, but ensuring universal vaccination is a negligible sacrifice compared with the costs, deaths, and social upheaval that the sustained pandemic is having in our country. We acknowledge that the refusal to obey rules one considers unjust is an American tradition. Oh, good. Well, that's good. But another cornerstone of the American tradition is that we come together when it's necessary. The best example of this was during the 2 world wars. Everyone contributed. No one was allowed to opt out merely because it conflicted with their sense of autonomy. That's not true. And draft dodgers who refused to serve were subject to penalties. True, conscientious objectors could refuse to use weapons for religious reasons, but they were obligated to help out in other ways, serving in non-combatant roles. There are no such alternatives for vaccinations. So there you go, Gons. The call is out. It is patriotic to get your vaccination. And if you don't, you're not a real American.
It's the cornerstone of the American tradition is that we come together right now and vaccinate.
Come together.
Yeah.
Right now. Vaccinate.
The whole premise here, it was interesting that they brought up Sweden because I was actually looking at some stuff from Sweden just a moment ago, but I don't know where they're getting their info, but according to this Newsweek article, Sweden COVID-19 death rate lower than Spain, Italy, and UK despite never having lockdown. And it goes into how the death rate as of August 2nd is much lower.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one piece here, new COVID-19 cases in Sweden versus Europe in the past 14 days, according to the World Health Organization. As of August 2nd, Sweden down 46%. Everywhere else is up. Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, France, Germany, Finland, Denmark, Norway, UK. Everybody's up except Sweden, which is down 46%, according to the World Health Organization.
So this is fake news. So this is incorrect data and fake news then.
Sure.
Lies. This is propaganda and lies.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about this Newsweek article?
Sweden.
Or Sweden is fake news?
No, I'm talking about I'm talking about USA Today. They're going against the factual information from the WHO. Yep. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's no surprise. I mean, it's an opinion piece too. These are bad opinions. Maybe get your facts straight there, buddy. If you're gonna these facts that aren't real.
This is the scariest one. Yeah, it's just propaganda, fake news, incorrect data, and if you don't get your vaccination, you're not an American. And no religious objections.
Yeah,
do not honor religious objections. This is a spooky article, but there you go. I mean, doesn't come as a surprise to anybody. But again, it's all about what the messaging out there is, and and that is the messaging.
You know what's crazy too? It's written by 3 doctors. It took 3 doctors to give this opinion. They're in cahoots. It's the 3. The evil spirits that look like frogs in the Book of Revelation. It's these 3 doctors right here writing this article.
There you go. All right, Guns. Well, there you go. We're a little over time. I know you got to go, so we can wrap up the show now, but I thought that was important.
Yes.
And everybody remember, we will be back on Monday, which will be the, 11th? 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
It'll be the 10th. Monday the 10th. We'll be back with another show sometime between noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Set your alarms. Turn on notifications. Follow the... I'm getting the end of show burps here.
Are we going to...
Follow the RSS feed.
Are we going to do push-ups to see who's in better physical fitness to be in the FBI? Are we doing that later?
Let's save it for the next show.
Okay, all right. It gives me time to start practicing.
Yeah, there you go. Gons and I will be taking the FBI fitness test on air.
Oh, gosh.
No, we won't.
No, not on air.
We'll be talking about it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. A big thank you to our artists, our musicians, and most of all, our producers. Thank you guys so much. We cannot do the show if it weren't for our producers. And if you want to help produce the show, we are always in need of new producers. You can do that at patreon.com/CCNT or canarycrynewstalk.com/support.
Oh, sorry.
canarycrynewstalk.com/support.
That's right. Make sure to support us because this is the real world. People who pay for this to be created, they are producers, not just generous people. Not only generous people, but also producers. And as you know, we might be needing to do some hardware upgrades here. As you've heard, Gonz's computer is causing more trouble than usual lately. And so we will be exploring those options. But if you support that plan of action, please head to canarycryradio.com/support or patreon.com/CCNT. Become a producer. Help us make that a reality. We appreciate you guys so much. You can also help support the show. You know, if financially is not an option for you, we totally understand. But if you got a few bucks, financially is a great way to help produce the show. But if that's not an option, you can support the show by creating art, creating jingles, creating songs, doing all sorts of stuff like that. You can send that all to canarycryradio@gmail.com. But if that's not an option for you, a great way to help out is to leave a rating and or a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the podcast. No new reviews recently, so I would appreciate reading some new reviews. It feels good when people do that, and it's a part of the podcasting process that we have no control over. Ratings and reviews go into the algorithms that show the show to new people. It's a great way to help spread the word, but if you've already done that, then make sure to share the show mano a mano, person to person. You got people waking up in your lives and they need to hear the show. Let them, I don't know what I'm saying. We'll help them. Send them an episode of the show. They're starting to wake up, realizing that things are not as they seem, and we're here to make that an easier transition. So send the episode to your friends, share it on Facebook. Let's get the word out there, folks. We appreciate that very much. And if you need any more instructions, here's what you do. You walk right up to them, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just Ask Noah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, we'll be back on Monday the 10th between noon and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Keep an eye out for the notifications on the Facebooks and the everywhere else. Make sure to follow the Facebook page. Search Canary Cry Radio and join the Canary Cry community on Facebook. And go to canarycry.community. That's a real URL. It'll take you to our off-Facebook, anti-Facebook social media, where it's all Canarians just like you, talking about the show, talking about their lives, sharing memes, praying for each other, getting business advice, all sorts of great stuff. It's a great little family. Head over to canarycry.community. It's very important. All right, folks, I think that's just about it for today. So thank you so much for listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
We should invite fewer people to be born.
Science is truth.
Look it up.
Stop this progress before it is too late.
Aliens. Aliens. Aliens.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Bye!
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo.
Stop this progress before it is too
I'll
late.
keep the cameras on.
Keep you warm and safe in my people too.
Blockchain.
I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo. I'll make you fat and sassy in my people's zoo.
Look it up.
You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo.
That was nice.